Hey, Pretty Girl Club. Welcome back to the Social Climbing series. And today I'm going to talk about how to receive micro validations and make yourself visible. How many of you guys have been hated on by an invisible ass bitch? I'm so tired of these invisible ass bitches trying to give social climbing advice or trying to pretend like they are experts on social climbing. Have you ever noticed that it's always the basic Betties? It's always the ones who are overlooked who try to talk the most shit about you. That's because visibility is a form of social power. Remember, beauty equals visibility, visibility equals social power. Social power means that you are receiving a lot of micro validation. So that's a word that I just made up on this channel because I didn't know how else to describe it. But like micro validation is when you receive compliments, when people are smiling at you, when customer service workers go out of their way to give you good service. All of those things are forms of micro validation. So you might think that micro validation is not a big deal, but trust me, if you don't receive any micro validation, that means that you are an invisible ass bitch. And so micro validation is actually very important when it comes to building self-esteem, when it comes to building social skills, because a lot of women are failing in life because they simply don't have social skills. So if you're pretty, like let's say a woman is pretty, but she has horrible social skills, like maybe she's loud, she's ghetto, she's ratchet, she wants to fight people, she wants to throw drinks on people. That's an example of someone whose social skills hinder them in life. So, a part of building good social skills and a part of like being in a good mood and stuff and kind of like having good interactions with society is micro validation. You know how people talk about you having social status or being treated better by society? That word society, it just means people. Okay, so remember, this is a sociology based channel. Sociology is the study of society. I'm very passionate about this. I can talk about this for hours. And so you know that you have social status when society treats you well. How do you know if society is treating you well? It's because you're getting micro validation. When you walk down the street or when you go walk your dog, people are smiling at you on the sidewalk or they're looking at you in jealousy. You know, people are not ignoring you. They don't bump into you. Did you know that there are some women who are so invisible that they've had people bump into them, step on their toes, slam the door in their face on accident just because they literally didn't notice them? That's how invisible some women are in society. And feeling like you're invisible, it triggers that trauma of being neglected. It's kind of like feeling neglected. Like people always forget about you. They forget your name. They forget your birthday. They forget your important parts of your life and stuff. Like nobody checks up on you, nobody cares about you. So that kind of triggers the same emotional reaction as neglect. And by the way, this is just my opinion. Everything that I say on this channel, it's really based kind of on like speculation. So what I love about the exotical space is this is a very innovative space. We're almost like a think tank. So we've got tens of thousands of women who are subscribed to this channel, and all of us are coming together in the comment section, and we're kind of creating all of these psychological theories as we go. So that's one of the amazing things about this space. But I believe that if a woman is constantly neglected, she's ignored by her family. She's ignored by her friends. She's ignored by men. She's ignored by customer service workers. She's ignored at her job. She gets passed up for the promotions. She gets ignored at the gym. She's ignored at the coffee shop. I believe that that can pile up, and it's kind of like micro traumas. You know how in the Black community they talk about microaggressions? So they're very teeny tiny small aggressions. So a microaggression could be like somebody ignoring you or leaving you out of the group, or like, you know, you're not included in the circle of women who are talking or whatever, like they didn't put you in the clique or whatever, you feel left out. That is like a microaggression. So the opposite of that would be like micro validation. So that would be when people are like, hey, Sarah, come sit by us. You know, hey, come over here. Hey, I brought you some lunch. I made some apple pie last night and I brought you a piece of pie. That's a form of micro validation. So you may think that that's not important, but it actually is very important because have you ever met a woman who's super carefree? A part of why she is carefree is because she is receiving a lot of micro validation. She is privileged. That is literally the definition of privilege. Privilege means that you receive micro validation. It means that you receive preferential treatment. So people are bringing you a candy bar on your birthday. You know, people are leaving candy at your desk in the office. People are giving you a thank you card if you're like a teacher or something. You know, they're making you the thank you card, they're bringing you the flowers, they're buying your coffee in the morning. All of that is, by definition, that is literally a privilege because you are receiving something that everybody else in the office didn't receive. They didn't get donuts for everybody else. They only got donuts for you. They didn't get coffee for everybody else. They didn't leave candy at everybody's desk. They only left candy at your desk because your department is privileged. You have a good team in the office or something like that. So micro validation is actually pivotal when it comes to living a privileged lifestyle. You can always tell the type of women who live a privileged soft life because of how they're treated. And by the way, this whole channel and like everything we talk about over here, it's all based on us living the soft life. I believe that women of color deserve to live a soft life just like everyone else. I believe that older women deserve to live a soft life just like everyone else. I just believe that every woman in general, regardless of your color, you deserve to pursue whatever the soft life means for you. So a part of me living a soft life is being treated with respect and dignity. It's me being treated as a preference. And notice how I have not mentioned men at all, because I really do believe that you kind of can't really depend on men, because a lot of men are very fickle. I'm not saying that you can never receive preferential treatment from men, but I want you guys to get in the habit of abundance when it comes to validation. You want to have multiple sources of validation, not just a man. All of the low vibrational women right now are seeking validation from men. I want us to elevate past that. And so that's why on this channel, you're not going to hear me constantly talking about men, 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 men. It's because, first of all, you're not always around men. And secondly, if you're constantly looking for validation from every man in existence, if you do get into a relationship, your micro validation from men will actually go down because you'll only have one man validating you rather than, thousands of men every weekend at the bar or on social media or something like that. You won't be able to engage in the same behaviors as a single woman that you would as a woman in a relationship anyway. And that's a whole other video. But let's talk about how to receive micro validation. Okay, so step one is I want you to think about the type of media you take in, because if you think about the women that you look up to socially, this is based on the type of media you watch and the reality shows that you watch. So for example, do you watch a lot of Gossip Girl? Do you watch Emily in Paris? Do you watch Baddies? Do you watch The Real Housewives? Because whatever women you watch, do you watch Bridgerton? Do you watch Scandal, Grey's Anatomy? That will actually show you what your social climbing goals are. So, for example, let's say you watch The Real Housewives. That means that there's a piece of you that wants to live that same lifestyle. So like if you are not aware of what kind of lifestyle and social climbing goals you have, just look at whatever your favorite pieces of media are. Look at who your favorite celebrities are or women that you subconsciously kind of look up to. Look at the types of TV shows and stuff that you watch and the documentaries and the lifestyles, or like the vloggers. Look at the vloggers that you watch and the influencers that you watch, because that will point you to what your social climbing goals are. So in my case, I can tell you mine. I love Gossip Girl. That was one of my favorite shows. I grew up reading those books. I used to sneak those books into my bedroom. Whenever my parents would take me to the library, I would sneak and get those books because I wasn't allowed to, I was very sheltered. So I wasn't allowed to watch a lot of like rated R stuff or PG-13 stuff. So I spent a lot of time in the library as a kid. So once I saw the Gossip Girl books, I was like, oh my God, they have cussing in here. Like, oh my gosh, like what is this? So I would sneak and I would like read the Gossip Girl books. I loved the show when it came out. So I like Gossip Girl. I loved Emily in Paris. I only watched like I think one season of it because I don't have that much free time to like watch a whole bunch of TV. But when I do watch stuff, I watch those shows. I did start watching Bridgerton. So that tells me that my social climbing goals are I want to be a fashionista. I want to be like the pretty girl who has a good career and has like plenty of money and be skinny and be pretty and have a friend group. So did you grow up watching Friends or Sex in the City or I don't know, like, what's that one TV show? I think it was with Tia Mowry where she was dating a football player. If you watch that, I think it's called The Game. So I watched that a little bit. Okay, so that shows that your social climbing goals, you want to be the type of girl who is around NFL players or men that have a lot of money. If you find yourself following women like Lori Harvey on social media, this means that a part of what you desire is you desire access to men with money, or maybe you want to be an influencer. Maybe that's something that subconsciously your brain is trying to tell you. That's one of the desires of your heart. Maybe you've always wanted to be kind of like the well-known pretty girl. You want to be a socialite, basically. So that's kind of what I think of when I'm thinking of Lori Harvey or like Justine Skye or like these women who are kind of famous for being famous, like the Kardashians and stuff. So you want to be a socialite. Okay, so that tells you what your social climbing goals are. And so how can you start to build up the micro validation to get there? And by the way, your social goals are nobody else's business, because sometimes other women, the invisible ass bitches, sometimes they will actually get jealous and they'll be like, you trying to be an influencer? Oh, you trying to be cute? Who you trying to impress? So they'll say all this bullshit because they want you to feel guilty about being popular. They want you to feel guilty about being famous. For some of you guys, you have a desire to be famous, or maybe you look up to those smart women, the women who are like best-selling authors, or the women who are like journalists, reporters, TV hosts, whatever it is. Just look at the types of women you follow on social media. Look at the types of women that you enjoy watching on TV. Look at the vloggers and influencers that you follow. Do you follow a lot of people that do book reviews and stuff? Because that means that your social climbing goal is you want to be the smart pretty girl. Or do you like those girls who are very into aesthetics? So like one of my favorite influencers is Kaylin Nicholson. I love her vibe. I love her aesthetic. I kind of grew up watching her. So I like women who have this boss babe type of vibe going for them. So I like that. Women who are good at organizing, women who are good at like decorating, and like they decorate their whole apartment for fall and then they decorate it again for Christmas. I like that kind of vibe. So that's a good way to kind of assess what your social climbing goals are. Just look at the influencers you follow. I want to do an exercise where you just kind of think about your dream life. And like if you were super rich right now, if you were a multi-billionaire, what would you be doing in your free time? Because those are your social climbing goals. Would you be hosting galas? Would you be pursuing fame or something? Would you be making music? Would you be like on Instagram posting makeup videos or something? Would you start a makeup line? Because for some of you guys, actually for a lot of you guys, you kind of look up to beauty influencers and you don't even realize it. So that means that there's something that that woman has in terms of social climbing. That's one of your goals. So maybe you don't want to be a makeup influencer, but maybe you do want to be an influencer in general. Or maybe you just want to be pretty in general. You want to have pretty privilege, kind of like that girl that you're watching online. Maybe you're a mom and you follow like those mom creators who are like really good at teaching their kids stuff. And I don't know, they're like very organized with their kids' schedules and stuff. Okay, so that's a good starting place in terms of figuring out what your social climbing goals are to begin with. But one of the things that I like to do is I will make myself more visible. Because the problem is when you feel invisible, nobody notices you. Your life is boring. Like, what's the point of social status if you never get to enjoy it? Seriously, what's the point of pretty privilege if you never get to enjoy it? What's the point of having wealth if you never get to enjoy it? What's the point of all these different privileges if you never get to go out and kind of like bask in those privileges? And I know a lot of women get pissed off, like, how dare you be pretty and enjoy your own beauty? Okay, but those women are invisible. Those women are not leveled up and they don't want to level up. So who cares what they're doing? They're going to remain invisible. They're going to keep shouting from the abyss. So let them stay in the abyss. You don't want to be in the abyss. You want to be on the mountaintop, okay? But the problem that some women have is all they do is work, go home, work, go home, work, go to the gym, go home, repeat, work, gym, home. Okay, that sounds boring. Or at least for me personally, that is boring. So if you could think of your dream life, what would it be like? And by the way, throughout this video, I'm showing images that represent my dream life for myself. And if any of these images resonate with you, that is your subconscious mind pointing you towards what your actual social climbing goals are. So one thing that I did was I created this little vision board. So I just changed the background on my phone to one of these images where it's like, it kind of represents the lifestyle that I want. So for some of you guys, you like designer items. So you change your background. You can change your phone background to like Louis Vuitton or Chanel or I don't know, whatever your favorite brand is or something, because that can kind of remind you of what you really want. But in terms of receiving micro validation, one of the things you can do is think of the women that you used to get jealous of in school. Did you get jealous of the cheerleader? Were you jealous of the girls who had a lot of friends? Because I know that for me, one of my jealousy triggers was I used to get jealous of women that had friend groups. Like the women who had, they were surrounded by multiple other women who were like real friends, like not fake ass bitches, but they were real friends. I used to get jealous of that. Like women who had healthy female friendships or like women who were fashionistas for whatever reason. It sounds very immature, but like I actually used to be jealous of the girls who were very expressive with their fashion because a part of my background was I was not allowed to wear certain clothing. Like I had to always be modest and like, I wasn't allowed to wear makeup and stuff when I was younger. So I actually used to get jealous of those women who they got to wear whatever makeup they wanted. They could wear extensions if they wanted. They could wear wigs or change their hair color. They could do their nails, however. And then people would compliment those girls and they'd be like, "Oh my God, you're so pretty. Like I want to be friends with you." So that showed me that that was like something that I actually desired. So think of the types of women that you get jealous of. Are you jealous of the women who get hit on at the bar? Because some women, they actually do get triggered by that. They're actually mad that you get hit on at the bar, or they get mad when they see a woman who has met her own body goals. I know that that used to be a trigger for me when I was overweight. It was women who met their own internalized beauty standard. Those were the women that used to trigger me, and that's because I was not meeting my internalized beauty standard. So that is one way that you can kind of assess what sort of micro validation you want. So for some of you, maybe you want healthy friendships. You want a friend group. I noticed that I wanted a group of girls who were also like fashionistas, and then we could all like look cute together and like, I don't know, just go out and kind of like Gossip Girl, basically, like a real life Gossip Girl. So I'm pretty. My friends are all pretty. I have good style. My friends have good style. Like we go out and we do bougie activities together. That is something that I always wanted. So that's how you can kind of assess what type of micro validation you want. And then the way that you get the micro validation is by making yourself visible. You could be the most awesome woman in the world, but nobody will know it if all you do is stay inside. So if you never go outside and you never interact with society, you do not have privilege. You don't, because other people give you the privilege. This is what a lot of people forget. So if you're just trapped in the house, or if you stay in the same city, like you've never moved out of a certain city, you never went into new spaces, you've never even tried the new coffee shop, you've never even been to that mall, you've never even been to that part of town. So how can you tell me that you have privilege when you don't even have any experiences? Confidence comes from experience. So one of the things that I wanted was I want the positive experiences. I want the real life Gossip Girl experience. So you can actually use Gossip Girl. Let's use that as an example. What did they do in Gossip Girl? Like what kind of activities did they do? They went to school. So maybe you're done with school. Okay, they went to different coffee shops. They got dressed up. They went to different events and galas. They were out roster dating. Those girls, they had like guys that they were talking to and stuff. From what I remember, they went to like different fancy events, like parties and stuff. They went out to different like bars and like nice hotels, and they just hung out in all these new places. Sometimes they would travel and stuff. If I think about Emily in Paris, okay, she had a job. She's also an influencer in the show. Like she has Instagram followers and stuff, so she interacts with her audience. So you can actually take cues from the media that you are watching. And I'm not saying that your whole life is going to be like a movie, but I mean, kind of. That's what privilege is. I mean, let's be honest. By the way, manifestation, those girls that coach manifestation and stuff, and they have these courses that are like $2,000. Manifestation is just privilege. Manifestation is privilege stacking. Okay, that's what it is. That's why I say that I'm not necessarily the most spiritual person, because I genuinely believe that a lot of people who talk about, oh, I manifested my dreams. No, you had privileges and you utilized your privileges. You were socially strategic enough to utilize whatever privileges you had so that you can attract an audience, and you're calling it manifestation, which is fine. But yeah, that's kind of what I believe about the whole concept of manifesting and stuff. I really believe that all of it is really just privilege. Like Lori Harvey, for example, she obviously has lots of different privileges that she has stacked to her advantage. She is related to people who are famous. She has pretty privilege. You know, it could be skin tone privilege, hair texture privilege, featureism privilege. And then she stacked those things so that she could build social status via her Instagram. And that, you know, so you're kind of stacking one thing on top of the other on top of the other. And so this is another reason why I don't get mad at people who have different privileges, because I understand that certain privileges are earned. Like you have to go out and kind of take the privilege for yourself. You can't wait for privilege to fall in your lap because it's not going to, especially if all you do is just go to work and go home. If you go to work and go home, those are the only two places where you will receive privilege. It's at work and then at home. So if you have a husband or something, yeah, maybe you receive privilege with him. And then if you have a job and you like your job, okay, cool, you receive privilege at work. But those are the only two places. So you cannot receive privilege in an environment that you never go to. So the more environments you go to, the more opportunities you have for privilege. And that leads me to my next point, which is to join groups. This is something that I've done. So you can download the Eventbrite app. Well, if you live in the United States, you can download this app called Eventbrite, and it talks about different events in your city. So every major city in the US has free events. And even if some of the events are not free, that's when you use your financial privilege so that you can attain another privilege. So if there's a business conference or something you're interested in or something that you feel will help take you to the next level, you should be willing to invest in that. Aren't you worth investing in? Or do you think you're just not worth shit, so you should just stay home and do nothing? I mean, seriously, what's the difference between staying in your apartment 24/7 and being in prison? Seriously, what's the difference? All you do is you only come out when you have a visitor, just like in prison. You only come out when you're summoned. You only come out when you have a visitor. You get a visitor once a month, once every 6 months, or in some cases, you get no visitors. So you're literally just confined and trapped in this prison. You're trapped in a beautiful prison. So if you live in a 4-bedroom house or something, okay, you're trapped in a beautiful prison. That's fine. You just have a beautiful prison instead of bars. So instead of being behind bars, you're behind apartment number 265. You know what I mean? Instead of being behind bars, you're behind a picket fence. So a lot of women make this major social climbing mistake, and their lives are boring because they don't do shit. So what you have to do is kind of like get out of that emotional codependency. Stop waiting for a man to ask you to go to the park or to go to the zoo or wherever you're trying to go. Stop waiting for a guy to ask you. Just go out and do it yourself. You have to take initiative if you want to access your privileges. So if you want pretty privilege, you have to take initiative to actually work out or to do your makeup or whatever it is that can enhance your beauty. And the same thing goes for social privilege. If you want female friends, you have to go out and actually make yourself available to make female friends. Oh, and by the way, never go to a co-ed setting to make female friends, because a lot of times if you go to a co-ed group, like let's say you join an adult soccer league and it's co-ed, most of the women and men there, most of them are there to socialize in a co-ed setting. So they're not necessarily there to make female friends. So if you do that, don't get mad when she ditches you once she starts dating the captain of the soccer team or something. So I would say that if you want to make female friends, just go to a female-centered space. Like whenever I want to be in a feminine space, like if I want to be in feminine energy, I will go to yoga class because I know that there are going to be mostly women. I will go to a Pilates studio because I know that there will be mostly women. I'll go to like a crochet or knitting group or something like that. Maybe like a paint and sip. There are going to be mainly women. I'll go to a coffee shop. Coffee shops have mostly women. So if you want female friends, you have to go to a female-centered space. I feel like you just have a higher chance of making female friends. More so in a group. I would say if you're like me and you want an actual friend group, go to a group setting because it's going to be easier for you guys to like group up into smaller groups, and then next thing you know, you have an entire friend group. I never thought that I'd be able to have multiple friend groups in my 30s. I didn't know that I could do that. I learned that from experience. I learned that from getting out and becoming good at society. Did you know that sociology and being social, it's actually a skill? It's called social skills. Okay, so this is a sociology based channel. So we talk about social strategy, social skills, social climbing. So anything that has to do with anything social, we're going to talk about that on this channel. So you can't tell me that you're good at social skills if you never socialize. And you only become better by practicing. And by the way, there's no such thing as anyone who is perfect when it comes to this area. There's no such thing as a woman with a perfect social life. So I feel like some women, they screw themselves over because they expect every interaction to be perfect. They expect to not make any social mistakes, or they beat themselves up if they make a social mistake. That's normal. You're a human being. Okay, and the other people you're interacting with, they are also human beings. So yes, you're going to forget people's names. Yes, they're going to forget your name. Yes, they might mix you up with the other black girl or whatever. You know, you might mix somebody else up with the other Asian girl or something. So that's just a part of being a human. And I feel like a lot of women who don't have enough social power and they don't do a lot of social climbing, they become anxious because they don't know where to begin. But when it comes to social constructs like race, privilege, status, colorism, texturism, featurism, socioeconomic status, anything that has to do with sociology at all, it's always going to be subjective. So this is where your fluid identity comes into play, because you have to know how to flow in multiple different spaces. You cannot predict how other people are going to react to you. And so that's why I say that you have to just practice putting yourself out there, joining the groups or going to the yoga class or going to the mixers or networking events, business events, co-ed spaces. If you're like dating or something, you just have to keep on practicing, because otherwise you're fucked. But another thing you can do though to receive micro validation is you can download the Meetup app and you can go to the meetups. So this is really good if you're Gen X or if you're interested in socializing in Generation X spaces. So if you date Gen X men, you can use the Meetup app, use Facebook. A lot of Generation X is on Facebook. So if you want to make female friends from Generation X, if you want to socialize with guys or something from Generation X, go to Generation X social settings. And if you're more of a millennial, Eventbrite or Instagram. If you're Gen Z, TikTok. But when we were in the Discord last night, we were talking about having anxiety. Like social anxiety is basically what it is. So social anxiety comes from social PTSD. So if you have had a lot of female friends betray you, if you have pretty girl PTSD, meaning you go into co-ed spaces. Usually pretty girl PTSD comes from co-ed spaces. So you walk into a room filled with women and men, and then the women are mad that you're there. You know, that sort of PTSD, usually it's coming from you being in a co-ed space. The workplace is a co-ed space. A lot of pretty girl PTSD is not coming from spaces where it's all women, for the most part. Usually the extreme PTSD, like women throwing drinks on you, women trying to smear your name, usually it comes from co-ed spaces, like churches. That's a co-ed space. Religious temples and stuff. All of those places are co-ed. So if you have social anxiety, that comes from having multiple bad social experiences. So the only way to really heal that is by flooding out the bad social experiences with good social experiences. And the only way to have the good social experiences is if you actually get out of apartment 265. So you have to actually get off of First Street where you live. You have to actually go outside and go to the park or go to the women's group, go to the Bible study group, whatever it is you're trying to do, go to the temple, go to the Jewish Community Center. I don't know, wherever you want to go, salsa class. Like I've done Latin dance classes and stuff. So whatever you're interested in, the only way to kind of get all of those bad experiences out of your mind is to flood them with good experiences. So social anxiety is basically when your bad social experiences outweigh the good ones. So I like to think of it as, you know, that little thing where it's like weighing the scales. So I feel like social anxiety comes when the bad social experiences kind of outweigh the good ones. So you want to balance the scales back. And the way that you balance it back is by putting yourself out there. So yes, it's risky. Yes, people might be mean to you. But if you have this bad attitude, because some groups of women, I'm not going to say any names, but some groups of women, they're actually known for having a negative outlook on society. They're scared of colorism, texturism, featureism, racism, jealousy. For a lot of pretty women, you're scared of people being jealous of you. I know what that's like. I used to have that fear in my 20s, but I realized it was actually holding me back. So one thing that happened to me when I was in my 20s was I had a lot of pretty girl trauma. I had a lot of pretty girl PTSD. Unfortunately, it was mainly from women in the church, of all places. So a lot of women in church settings, a lot of religious women, they would like be very mean to me. And so it caused me to gradually shrink back. It caused me to gradually not wear makeup, to not post on social media, to not start my business, to not write books, to not do a podcast. Like it caused me to not go after my dreams because the social anxiety became so bad to where I was literally scared. Like, oh, if I post myself with red lipstick, people are going to think that I'm trying to show off or something. So women who are trying to put you down and stuff, they actually want you to be invisible. Invisible ass bitches want you to be invisible just like them. They want you to be a ghost just like them. Invisible women, they are ghosts in society. They get overlooked like a ghost. They get ghosted by others. They're ghosted by their friends, maybe ghosted by men or something. They're just constantly being ghosted. Friends, family members, jobs are ghosting them. The people who are trying to interview them and stuff, they're constantly getting ghosted. All they know is being invisible. So those types of women, when they see you being visible, and getting that spotlight, they're going to try to hold you back from that. So for a lot of pretty women, you have kind of like this pretty girl PTSD, but the only way to actually get over that is you have to get over the hump. You cannot allow your mental illnesses, because PTSD is technically a mental illness. So you cannot allow that PTSD to cause you to be socially handicapped, because social anxiety actually blocks you from achieving your goals. It blocks you from losing weight because then you're like, oh, I don't want to come off like I'm trying to show off or whatever. Because I remember people used to comment on my diet all the time. Like when I was at work, I remember I used to drink like bone broth and stuff. I used to bring soup to work and people would comment on that. They'd be like, oh, you're starving yourself. So they want you to have social anxiety. They want you to be scared of what others think of you. Because if you're scared of what others think, then you'll never achieve your dreams. So no, I refuse to allow any form of PTSD to stop me from living the life I want to live. I don't care if it's pretty girl PTSD. I don't care if it's colorism, texturism, featureism, PTSD. Doesn't matter. I'm not going to allow any sort of mental illness of any kind to limit me from meeting my goals. But another thing you can do, though, to receive micro validation is to do things that draw positive attention and validation to yourself. So, for example, self-expression. Maybe you're a singer. Maybe you can sing. Okay, can you book a performance at like a local jazz bar or something? Maybe you're good at poetry. Like I have friends that do like poetry. I think it's called like poetry slam or slam poetry or something where it's like spoken word. I think that's what it's called, spoken word. So maybe you're good at that. All of that kind of stuff is a form of self-expression. Maybe you're a makeup artist, but you don't have any clients right now. Can you do your own makeup? Especially like with Halloween coming up, can you do your own makeup and like post it on social media or, just post pictures and just talk about how you're being very artsy? Because all of that stuff that makes you stand out, the stuff that makes you, your unique qualities is what's going to attract the micro validation. So some examples of micro validation are Instagram likes, Facebook likes, if you create a Facebook group and people join your group. Maybe getting a woman's phone number, like you just made a new friend at the coffee shop or you made a new friend at the music festival. I have friends that actually go to concerts and music festivals by themselves and they make friends. They will literally get phone numbers. That's what I do. Whenever I go out by myself, if I meet a woman who like vibes with me in terms of friendships, I will ask for her phone number. I'll be like, oh, I'm trying to make friends. Like, can I get your number? And maybe we can like hang out or something. So it's very similar to like dating. You know how a guy will try to ask for your number? You can take on those same social skills and use those skills to be able to make female friends. And women are much better at it than men anyway, because women are not doing it in a creepy way. So that's a form of micro validation, collecting phone numbers, making friends, joining groups. And one of the reasons that a lot of men are jealous of women is because they're actually jealous of the micro validation you are receiving. The average woman receives more micro validation than the average man. And this is partially because women's collective image is a lot better and a lot safer than men's. If you look at who the average predators are, if you look at who the average criminals are, I think there was a stat that said that men are like 16 times more likely to go to prison than a woman. So I think part of it has to do with that. But a lot of men actually are threatened by women because women, on average, are receiving a lot more micro validation. So a part of what can help you receive micro validation is being safe. It's being a safe space for others. It's making others feel safe. You know how people talk about being safe brown? And I don't like that term because it's kind of like they're implying that dark brown is unsafe. But the reason they're saying that, though, is because they're saying that your ambiguity, the ambiguity in your phenotype, the ambiguity in your skin complexion is literally causing other people to feel safe when it comes to talking to you. They feel safe when it comes to interacting with you. So a part of receiving micro-validation is you are making other people feel safe. You are helping other people. You are inspiring other people somehow. So being a fashionista, for example, that's one of my social climbing goals, is like being the fashionista friend, or like having all of my other friends be into fashion. You are inspiring other people. You are their muse. That's another form of micro validation, wearing cute clothes to attract fashionista friends. Or, you're naturally attracting compliments when you're pretty, by the way. Because other women will be like, oh my God, I love your hair. Oh my gosh, I love your nails. Oh, your earrings are so pretty. Oh my God, your makeup is slayed. So you're attracting micro-validation. If you like wigs, switch up your wigs if you're trying to attract friends that are also into wigs and extensions. Like, I like to switch up my hair color and texture depending on the environment. That is a social climbing tactic. A lot of celebrities do that. Like Beyonce, you know how people got mad because she went platinum blonde, and then they were like, oh, she's trying to look white. But celebrities do this all the time. Ariana Grande is another one. Ariana Grande will use straight up plastic surgeries depending on the era that she's in with her music, or, depending on what she's doing or what audience she's trying to appeal to. So, of course, this type of behavior is very controversial. But guess what? That is a loophole in society. Society treats you a certain way based on how you look. So if you look like a certain ethnicity, you're going to be treated like that ethnicity. If you look like a certain body type, you're going to get treated like women of that body type. This is why I talk about thin privilege, because I understand that being thin is like the ultimate manifestation. Do you know how many people are doing fad diets right now so that they can attain thin privilege? But anyway, another way to get micro-validation is join classes like Pilates, yoga, barre, which is based on ballet. So if you're trying to make female friends, you can do those. And then if you're trying to date or something, you can go to co-ed spaces. Do a hobby that your type would be interested in. So first of all, are you your type's type? Because if so, then that would mean that you should be in some of the same places that he would be in, for example. So if you want a guy that likes business, or a guy that's a business owner, or a guy that is well off financially, what kind of co-ed financial hobbies are you doing? Are you going to business events? Are you going to luncheons and stuff? I told you guys my story times about how I utilized that social strategy and it worked for me, going to different like finance luncheons and stuff. If you're into athletic guys or something, okay, what kind of hobbies would your type be participating in? Would he be on the soccer team? What kind of body type do you like? I'm objectifying right now, but seriously, like, what kind of body type do you like? Do you like the guys that are the basketball body type, the runner's body type, the golfing or baseball body type? Because if so, why are you not a part of some sort of co-ed sports league or something? If you are athletic, because that's another thing, you want to be your type's type as well. So if you're not athletic, you're not going to attract a guy who's athletic. I'm just saying. So if you're not a girl that looks like an NFL player's girlfriend, you're not going to attract an NFL player. And I'm sorry, a lot of other women have lied to you and they've tried to get you into limerence. But it's like, if you don't look like an NFL player's girlfriend, you're not going to attract an NFL player. If you don't look like a CEO's girlfriend or something, you're more than likely not going to attract that. And I'm not saying it's impossible. There are exceptions, but the exceptions don't make the rule. This is a sociology channel, so we speak in generalizations based on patterns that we see in society. So if you wanted a guy that looks like a model, okay, then you would want to look like a model yourself. But anyway, another way to receive micro-validation and make yourself visible is to plan fun social events to go to by yourself, because then you have something to look forward to. So like right now, if I look at my calendar, I have fun social events to look forward to. So that's also a good way to decenter men altogether, because you're not waiting around for a guy to ask you to go to a restaurant. You're not waiting for him to ask you to go to the music festival. You're not waiting for someone to ask you to go to a concert. You're scheduling those things on your own. And then you have something to look forward to in terms of pretty privilege. What's the point of having all this beauty if you never receive the pretty privilege? You can be the most beautiful person ever in prison. You could be the most beautiful person ever that nobody sees. So what's the point of this beauty if no one is taking it in or if no one sees it? And don't get me wrong, I understand that you get to see your beauty in the mirror, but this particular video is about making yourself visible. So if you want your beauty to increase your visibility, you have to actually get outside of the house. So yes, go do the cooking classes. Set aside a budget so you can pay for the cooking class, because I know those classes can be expensive. Or join ClassPass or get a Groupon or something, get some sort of coupons, or do it when it's during a time where like the place first opened up. I like to keep up with the grand openings of different spas and stuff, because I know that if it's a grand opening, like if the business is just now opening, they're going to have a discount or something. So you can like look forward to stuff like that. You can keep up with the articles, like read the news articles of your neighborhood just to see like, okay, what kind of stuff is going on in Brooklyn, like what new businesses are opening up, because that's going to help you to kind of stay on point. Oh, and by the way, one of my friends, she actually has her own business, and one of the ways that she attracts clients, like she makes her business more visible, she actually joined a bunch of Facebook groups, and she like would go to these Facebook meetups for the women in her neighborhood. So they had like Brooklyn Women's Facebook group, or like Upper East Side Women's Facebook group. So she would join these Facebook groups and she would show up to the coffee shops and stuff. And that's actually how she built her clientele and her Instagram account. And she actually posts on Instagram like every morning. She talks about what she's doing and stuff. You would think that that doesn't matter, but social media, that's another form of visibility. So if you're a Facebook girly, you can post on Facebook. If you're an Instagram girly or Snapchat or TikTok girly, you can post on those places, and it's going to make you more visible in general. And it's going to make people feel more safe with you because they kind of can get to know you. It's very easy. Like, it's much easier to control your image if you are the one that's curating it. So if you're the one that's posting on Instagram, if you're the one that's building your brand, if you're the one that's creating a website for your business, as opposed to people just having no idea who you are. So that's another source of micro validation. It's social media. And by the way, when it comes to decentering men, even if you do have a boyfriend, he's not going to have all the same hobbies as you. He doesn't want to go to Sephora with you. He does not want to go to the lipstick factory with you and create a new lipstick shade. So you're still going to need female friends anyway. Like, a part of living a fulfilled life is having both, maybe a male friend or boyfriend, husband, whatever you want. If you want kids, having kids, but also it's having female friends and having fun events to look forward to. Think about why you look up to celebrities. Why do you look up to them? Why do you care what celebrities are doing? Why do you care what influencers are doing? You care because their life is more exciting than yours. Let's just keep it a buck. It's because their life is exciting and your life is not as exciting, and you want your life to be more exciting. So that's why you're kind of looking at influencers and reality show stars and stuff. It's because they have certain aspects of their life that you aspire to have at some point. So they have this aspirational aspect to themselves. And so one of the things that I did was I tried to work on becoming my own celebrity. Becoming my own celebrity, becoming the Beyonce of my own life, right? Like, we talked about this, like becoming the Beyonce of your own life. You want to be the main character of your own life. You don't want to sit on the sidelines like these invisible ass bitches. They're on the sidelines. They're invisible. They're an extra. They're in the background. You know how like in the movies they have a main character, she's the star, and then they have the extras in the background? She's invisible. She's an extra in her own life. She's in the background. She's watching somebody else be the main character. She's stalking your Instagram. She's stalking your Snapchat. She's stalking your stories because you're the main character in her life. But a part of receiving micro-validation, it's about getting the type of treatment that you've always wanted. So it's about being treated like a princess. It's about being treated like a queen by your friends, by the boyfriend, by your job, whatever it is. And then also eliminating and getting rid of any environment that does not treat you that way. So I've actually quit certain environments because I didn't get the treatment I wanted. So like, I joined this one, it was a co-ed fitness group, and I made the mistake of joining a co-ed fitness group so that I could make female friends. And it worked for a little bit. Like I actually did end up making one really good friend, but I noticed that 90% of the time when I went there, the women were ignoring me. And that's because there were a lot of like black men or whatever. These guys at this particular co-ed fitness group, they were nowhere near my type. Like nowhere. These were the type of guys that would like smoke every day and shit. Like some of them would literally be smoking in the parking lot before they would go to the fitness thing. So these guys were nowhere near my type. I had gone to that group with the intention of making female friends, but a lot of the women there, they went because they wanted to get in shape and stuff, but they really wanted access to those men. And so, I mean, I guess I can't fault them. Like if that's your type, that's your type. But that was a mistake I made. So I actually stopped going to that group. I just stopped going. I stopped showing up. And it was free, so it's not like I was losing money or anything like that. But if you look at the parks in your city, just look up all the different parks. And parks and recreation, you know, they have the parks and recreation groups. They have like the community, they have like the I think it's called, is it called a conservatory or conservator? The people that own the parks, basically, they will throw events and stuff. So that's what I was doing. I was going to all the different parks and going to all the different groups and events at these parks. And so I stopped going to that one because I did not get the treatment I wanted. I basically was not getting the social climbing. I wasn't getting the social status that I desired, which was female friendships in that particular setting. Once I made that one friend, I stopped going because I was like, okay, I achieved my goal technically. I made a friend. And these guys here, you know, I just didn't like the environment because I felt like the girls, they would kind of ignore me so that they could talk to the guy, or they would straight up give me dirty looks. So I just stopped going to that particular group. So another way to receive microvalidation is to make room for the microvalidation by getting rid of the environments where you do not receive validation. I told you guys I walked out of my accounting job. I walked out of my job as an accountant because I was not receiving the microvalidation that I wanted. By the way, your salary is a form of microvalidation. So I was not getting paid on the level that I wanted to get paid on. And I was receiving more microvalidation from this YouTube channel. And now this YouTube channel has surpassed the income of my accounting job. So that was a good social climbing move. I did a good job by walking out of a bad social environment and going to a better social environment, which is social media for me. So every woman has an area where she excels socially. So all you have to do is just start to strategize. Where do I get the most social status? Where am I celebrated? You know how a lot of black women will say, go where you're celebrated. Okay, so I'm telling you the same thing in the exotical community. Go where you're celebrated. Who gives a fuck what anybody else thinks? If you're celebrated in the black community, if you are celebrated by black women, by black men, go to that environment. I don't care what anybody thinks. They can call you mammy, pick me, black male centered, black female centered, male centered. I don't care what they call you. I want you to be wealthy. I want you to be treated like a queen. So if that's where you get treated like a queen, is in Africa or something, or like in a black neighborhood, who cares what anybody else thinks? Because first of all, it's nobody's business. Your social climbing journey is personal, so nobody's going to know. Nobody knows where you're going unless you're telling all your business. But generally speaking, nobody's like following you everywhere. And like, you know, so stop living your life based on these invisible ass people in your mind. Because I used to be guilty of that. I would live my life. I would have these voices in my head that were not mine. Like, oh, who you think you are? Why you got that red lipstick on? You don't need that. That's not my voice. That's literally the voice of a ghetto hating ass woman. So you can't allow these negative voices of these invisible ass bitches to get into your head. So no, I'm going to go where I'm celebrated. If I'm celebrated by black people, I'll be in the black spaces. If I'm celebrated by white people, I will be in the white spaces. If I'm celebrated at the coffee shop, that will become my favorite coffee shop. Did you know that I actually go to different coffee shops and I will pick and choose, like just based on how I'm treated and based on the environment of the coffee shop, that will become my favorite coffee shop. So if I'm treated like a queen in the Starbucks, I'm going to keep going to Starbucks. Oh, well, Starbucks, don't nobody want to go to Starbucks. Starbucks is nasty. I don't care. I like Starbucks because I receive a pedestal in Starbucks. So you want to go wherever you're celebrated, go wherever you receive the pedestal. So it doesn't matter where it is because you can make it work for you. You can social climb in so many different ways. There is no right or wrong way to social climb as long as you are meeting your goals. And by the way, If you are following a spirituality or a religion, they do actually have rules for how you're supposed to socially interact. So just be careful with that, because sometimes people will try to impose Christianity or whatever their religious beliefs are. They'll try to impose that on you and make you feel guilty. Like, how dare you walk out of your job and not put in a 2 weeks notice? That's not the godly thing to do. Okay, well, I never said that I was going to live my life in a way that reflects Christianity. So let go of beliefs that do not serve you. I mean, I'm not trying to convince you to like leave your religions or whatever, but I'm just saying, just for example, any beliefs that do not serve you, let go of that shit. Because guess what? I'm not taking advice from any women that I wouldn't trade lives with. And by the way, I don't even consider myself an advice channel. I don't even consider myself to even be qualified to even give you advice, because I'm an anonymous content creator. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. Don't blindly follow me, because I don't know you. You don't know me. You're never going to meet me. I'm never going to meet you. So it doesn't matter. Like, you're supposed to be the boss of your own life. We're all grown here. So you get to decide what your moral code is. You get to decide if you want to find loopholes. By the way, that's another thing that invisible women get jealous over. They get jealous when you find a loophole in your social climbing journey and you're able to kind of cheat. Like, they see beauty enhancements as cheating, for example. How dare you wear that makeup and look so pretty? You just increase your pretty privilege by like 100% because you put on some lashes and some lipstick or something. So they'll get mad because you found a loophole in society and you exploited that loophole to your advantage. All you did was you put on some lipstick, then you posted on IG. Next thing you know, you got a brand deal. So your beauty, that lipstick and those eyelashes literally caused you to make an additional $100. That's an example of a loophole. So maybe I can do a video about social loopholes, but some examples of loopholes obviously would be benefiting from any sort of ism, lookism, capitalism, colorism, texturism, featureism. The reason that women get so pissed about privileges is because they don't have those privileges. People only get mad at the privileges they don't have. They don't get mad at the privileges they're benefiting from. I don't see people getting mad that they're paid content creators. They're not mad that they get paid thousands of dollars per month to create YouTube content. No, they're not complaining about that, because that ism, capitalism, is benefiting them. They only complain about the isms they don't have access to. So whatever ism you are jealous of, there is a such thing as privilege jealousy. So if you find yourself getting jealous of a certain privilege, all that means is that you desire that privilege. So you only have two options: either change yourself to attain that privilege or get the fuck on. Those are the only two options. I'm sorry to break it to you, but you have to either just get over it and just accept that you will never have access to that privilege, or you can attain that privilege. So like thin privilege, let's say you're big and you get triggered by women who have thin privilege because they can fit in the airplane seats, like the restaurants and stuff, they've got plenty of food to eat, whereas you're constantly hungry, their bodies look good. Okay, so that means that you probably desire thin privilege. So what are you going to do about it? If you desire a privilege, first of all, you have every right to pursue whatever helps you. Okay, whatever helps you to survive. This is why I created this channel. This is not just about like talking shit. This is about survival. It's about thriving. It's about helping underprivileged women to no longer be underprivileged. That is the entire premise of this YouTube channel. Okay, it's about teaching underprivileged women to have some form of social power, or to utilize the social power they already had so that they can make money for themselves or their family, so that they can get out of the hood or whatever. So whatever privileges you're jealous of, you have to decide whether or not it's worth it for you to pursue access to that privilege. So remember that video I did a few months ago about Oneswa versus Nara Smith? And the girl actually revealed that she was jealous of Nara Smith's geographical privilege, because that woman lived in a country where they didn't pay you to be a TikTok creator, whereas the other girl, she got paid. Nara Smith gets paid to create TikTok content. Okay, so if I were that jealous to where I'm making a whole entire hour-long YouTube video, I would get my ass up and save up some money, and I would actually move countries so that I could have access to get paid off of my passions, because that's very important to me. Being able to be paid for being my authentic self, that's one of my lifetime bucket list goals. So for me, that privilege is important. So you get to decide which privileges are most important to you. So, journal prompt, if you are into journaling, this can be a journal prompt for you. You can write down a list of like what privileges are most important to you. I know that for me, pretty privilege is one of the most important. Wealth privilege is another important one. Having influence and social power, that's extremely important to me. If I'm invisible, I will be depressed. I don't know how women can just go about life and just like not have shit going for themselves. I can't do that shit. If I'm invisible, like if I'm not utilizing my gifts and talents, if I'm not making a difference in the world, if my life is just in shambles, I'm going to be depressed. So, visibility, privilege, and social power in general, that's extremely important to me. I'm never going to let any of those things slip through my fingers. So, you want to like write down what privileges are worth pursuing for you. So for me personally, I'm trying to think of what other privileges I don't want. I am more of a privilege stacker, so I prefer to have access to as many privileges as possible. But like, okay, actually, white privilege, I don't feel like I really need white privilege. So you're not going to see me like trying to look as white as possible, if that makes sense. Because I feel like, number one, that's already a part of my background. So I feel like what I have is already enough for me to work with. So I would say that I guess that's technically a privilege where I don't have to like really pursue that. The most that I'll do in that area is maybe I'll put on a blonde wig once in a while or something. But as far as dyeing my natural hair, no. As far as like putting on, I don't know, blue contacts or something, I wouldn't necessarily do that. But for some women, they care about that. Maybe they want to white pass. And I'm not, you're not going to hear me shaming it because obviously we know as multiracial people or people of multiracial descent that there actually are some people that did white pass back in the day so that they could survive and like have access to more wealth. So for some people, white passing actually is important to them. And that's their business. That's actually none of my business. Think about like Halsey and like Meghan Markle and Mariah Carey. So for those types of women, I don't see them going out of their way to wear afros 24/7 or to tan their skin 24/7. No, it's because they are receiving some form of privilege that's important to them when their hair is straight or when their hair is dyed blonde. And that's none of my business. That is their privilege. That is none of my business. That's something that they decided to have access to. So whether you want to admit it or not, everybody in this world is seeking after some form of privilege. Whether it's skin tone privilege, texturism privilege, that's what lace fronts are. You're seeking after the privilege that comes with having a type 2 Brazilian wavy hair texture. So that's why you're buying a lace front. It's because you think the lace front looks more real. You don't have 4C hair hanging out of the top and then have the Brazilian wavy on bottom. No, you're trying to benefit from texturism by putting on the actual lace front so that at first glance, when you're in a non-black space, it looks real. So that's their personal business. So why is it that when some women wear lace fronts or they're benefiting from a certain privilege, they want to tell you, oh, stay out of black women's business. Oh, why are you worried about what I do with my hair? But then when you have access to a different privilege, suddenly other people want to police and control you. No, that's some invisible bitch behavior. They're mad because you having access to light skin privilege, for example, causes you to be very visible in black spaces or in white spaces, because you have more approximation to the white people or to the Hispanic community or whatever. So they're just mad because they either didn't have the courage to seek after that privilege or they simply don't have access to it and they have not accepted that. They haven't learned how to stack their other privileges. And so that's their problem. That's their own internalized problem. It is not your responsibility to be a social justice warrior. You are not required to cape for women who wouldn't cape for you. So this is why I don't usually call myself a feminist on here. Like I do lean more towards feminism, but I am actually not for all women. I'm not. I'm only for the women who support me. I don't feel responsible to actually cape for women who wouldn't cape for me. I only fuck with the women that fuck with me. That's it. So if that means that I'm not enough of a girl's girl or not enough of a feminist, so be it. Because it's not my responsibility to privilege stack on behalf of others. You know how people say, oh, well, as the privileged person, you have a social responsibility to defend and protect others. No, I don't. No, I actually don't. Because if that were the case, what about white people who enslaved African Americans? What about the United States literally conquering and dominating other countries. There's a reason why we have first world countries, second world countries, and third world countries. It's because the first world countries decided, hey, we're not going to cape for all of these third world countries who are not our allies. So guess what? That is basic sociology. So if you don't learn from the people who have the quote unquote privilege or the people who have the social knowledge, you will not be able to be strategic. There comes a time in life where you have to decide who you want to defend. So no, I'm not going to be everybody else's soldier. I'm not going to carry the weight of the world on my shoulders. No, it is not my responsibility to stand up for and defend random strangers who would not do the same thing for me. Look at men. Aren't men supposed to be our quote unquote protectors and providers? They're not doing that. Men have male privilege, but I don't see them using their male privilege to support and defend women. A lot of men actually use their male privilege to support and defend themselves. So if other people can utilize their privileges to help themselves, why can't I utilize mine? Anyway, what do you ladies think? How have you received micro validation and made yourself visible? Let me know what you think in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.